I love it. Thank you. Um, so, just to start off, thank you for coming. A risk in so many ways. It may not seem like a risk, but everything has a trade-off, right? So you're here, and because you're here, you're not somewhere else. And I know that there are things that are vying for your attention. And so thank you for putting your attention here for the next hour. I really appreciate you doing that. It says something about who you are and what you value and what's important. I'll start with the gist of what this hour will be about, just so that you, in case you have to skedaddle. I hope you don't. But here's the deal that I'm going to walk you through over the next bit of time. That essentially our thoughts matter, and as a psychologist, I get to play around with this a lot. Learning mindfulness and being more mindful, I get to really do my own work in discovering how my own thoughts lead to my own physiology, and how my own physiology leads to my emotions, my feelings, and how my feelings lead to my behaviors. And so I'm going to walk you through that, talk a little bit about our nervous system and how it gets activated and how to regulate that, how to have more coherence, especially at this busy time of year. And we'll talk a little bit about how we can be our own change, how we can be different during this. So I had this up when you were coming in, and so I'll just pose the question to you: how would you fill in this blank right now for you, for what's happening in your world, what's happening in your life, what's happening here at work, what's happening at home? We did a strengths session this morning with one of the creative teams, and we were talking about, who we are at home is not different than who we are at work. And I really encourage you to think like that. You are who you are no matter where you are. They say wherever you go, there you are. And so how would you fill in this blank? It's very important, because this choice matters. This choice matters. Do you fill in something positive on this line, or do you fill in something negative? And I'm going to show you why it matters. You may have heard this term before, called self-fulfilling prophecy. And an example of that is here. So you say to yourself, I'm a bad salesperson. You think that. You believe that. It's a belief. A belief is just a thought. You think a lot. You believe that, and so it ends up leading to certain behaviors that support that belief. The behavior here is you give up trying to even get better at something, like sales. And of course, you could fill in the rest of the blank. You could see how there's a cycle there. You believe something, you do something, and then there's an outcome, there's a result. If you think something different, if you think something more positive, selling is a skill set. You don't have to think, I'm the best salesperson in the whole world, because that may not be accurate or authentic. But if you believe, or if you think selling is a skill set, then you're more likely to practice the skill, or develop the skill, or hone the skill. And when you do that, results will be different as well. A self-fulfilling prophecy is merely a prediction that directly or indirectly causes itself to become true, and here's why. There's a positive feedback loop between the belief and the behavior. And the mediator is really the feeling. So you could see here two different behaviors, two different ways of being, and of course there's going to be different thoughts that lead to those behaviors. Here's essentially the loop: thoughts, emotions. They say emotions evoke motion. So you could see there how emotions lead to behaviors. That's your motion. Thoughts lead to emotions, emotions lead to behaviors, behaviors lead to outcomes. So if you see in these two particular situations, can you just hypothetically, for a hot second, turn to the person next to you and put a thought in the bubble based on what you see the feeling being, or the behavior being? What's the thought that's leading to that behavior? Hypothetically, just turn to the person next to you. Okay. Okay. So many possibilities, but you can see in someone's body what it is that they're thinking, or at least what it is that they might be feeling. What do you feel or think when I put something like this up? It's almost time to switch from my everyday anxiety to my fancy Christmas anxiety. Okay, you laugh. You get it, right? We get it. That's why we call this a meme. Does anybody know what a meme is? What it means? You've heard the word, right? You laugh because it's something you get. It's a common belief that we all share, a societal belief. That is a meme. A meme is a mimetic. A mimetic is like genetic. Genetics are units of biological inheritance. Mimetics are units of cultural inheritance. Culturally, we get what this means. And that's why we laugh. You also probably get this, my anxieties have anxieties. You also probably get these memes, right? Beware of the mother-in-law. I wrote an article called this once. Because it's a unit of cultural belief that we all get. You also get this. Don't talk about politics at the holiday table. These are units of cultural inheritance. So in thinking about how we think, that's really what resilience is about. And I want to define resilience, because resilience is either the ability to struggle well or the ability to navigate resources available to you in times of struggle. And this really comes down to doing your own work. So while you don't want to talk about politics at the dinner table, I encourage you to turn the finger inward. Instead of talking about what else is going on outward, put the finger inward and do some of the work that can help you become more naturally resilient. It takes work, it takes practice. And here are the keys that I'm going to talk about today. The first one is understanding stress and the stress cycle. And this whole idea of developing a metacognition, upping your emotional quotient, your EQ, having a greater language than either I feel good or I feel bad to describe what's going on for you. Building your skill set, which is enhancing your competence, and taking more inspired action, which is building your character. So it's about character and competence. And I'm going to go through each of these. The first one, understanding stress. If you want to be well, if you want to feel well, if you want to be flourishing, then it really does come down to self-awareness. Self-awareness is not something you just switch on like a switch. It's something that you build like a muscle. And when you become more self-aware, you will, I promise you, bump into parts of yourself that are not so pretty when dealing with your mother-in-law or when having a conversation about politics at the dinner table. So becoming more aware can, if we choose, lead to more compassion. We're all trying the best we can. We give ourselves the permission to be human, which could lead to greater self-care, which is really a very important part of being resilient, especially this month, is self-care. What do you need and when? So what causes stress is a thought exercise I'd like you to consider right now. And what does stress cause? What causes you stress? Let's hear some. What causes you stress? Just call it out. People. In particular, annoying ones? Yes. Challenging relationship dynamics? Yeah, and a never-ending to-do list, especially this month. There's so much to do. What else? Not sleeping. Yeah, so lack of rest. You know, most of us in this room are underslept, under-rested. So, our most precious resource, right? Time. So lack, scarcity, problems. What does stress cause? Does stress cause lack of sleep, or does lack of sleep cause stress? What does stress cause? What does stress lead to? Does it lead to illness? Actually, it's a trick question. Stress leads to inflammation in your body, and inflammation leads to illness or disease. So it's not that there's the direct connection between stress and illness. It's that stress causes signals to go throughout your body saying, there is a problem here, adjust and adapt to this problem. And on the back of your handout, I'm not going to go through it today because it's quite intricate, but I just wanted you to see the full stress cycle from moment of stimulus to response. Biological response, emotional response, behavioral response. You can see it's quite intricate. And it is said that stress causes change in the mind and body. Psychological stress causes depression, heart disease, and infectious disease caused by inflammation. So it leads to all sorts of not so good things. So understanding it is really valuable. And in a nutshell, you can remember, because you may have learned this somewhere along the line, that our central nervous system is really what responds to the stimuli in our environment. Not all stimuli is stressful, but especially at a time when the stakes are so high, when time is so short, when sleep is so jeopardized, we have lots of additional stress in our life. And you could see here what happens when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. We rest and digest. We put on the brakes. When our sympathetic nervous system is activated, the opposite happens. It's like the gas pedal. And when people are chronically stressed, they have all the gas on and none of the brakes on. And when you have an endless to-do list, of course, you're going to be going, doing, until, this is not a trick question, you stop. You choose to stop. You choose to put on the brakes. And you choose to take a pause. Without that, there's this. Burnout is what takes your energy when you're taking your energy without replenishing your energy. When you're always having the gas pedal on and not enough of the brake on, that's what causes burnout. So they say that breath is the first thing you do at birth and the last thing you do at death, which is why we call it breath or breathing. It is our greatest access to calm in moments of stress. And you can either excite or calm your body with your breath, right? It does both. And breathing affects your central nervous system. So it either activates it, speeds it up, or slows it down. And that's where developing more mindfulness, that's where breath is a tool for mindfulness, because you can focus your attention and you can actively activate or you could actively deactivate. How many breaths do you take in a minute? Do you know? Let's do an experiment, okay? So I'm going to time a minute, and I want you to count the number of breath cycles you take in the next minute. Ready? Go. Okay, that was a minute. What did you come to? Let's hear some numbers. 20 breath cycles? 17, 10, 24. So this is the range. This is the range. People as little as 4 to as much as 24. That's usually the range. What do you think is optimal? 17. Around 17 breaths per minute is what's optimal. So this is what you see. This is what you see. You see that on average, people are breathing 3 times as many breaths as is necessary per minute. That on average, people that are around 20 breaths per minute really need to activate their parasympathetic nervous system a little bit more. They really need to be mindful to put on the brakes. And there's a great adage I learned over at the Gestalt Center in Cleveland saying that you have to slow down in order to speed up. That if you want to go, and do, and get all that done, it's a paradox, right? You need to rest and slow down so that you do have the energy and you are replenished enough to speed up. This is important for you, of course, individually, but guess what? We don't live in bubbles, right? We impact everyone around us. And one of the mechanisms at work here is called mirror neurons, that when I am feeling something, when I have anxiety going through my body, when I have stress, you could pick that up, right? You could pick up the energy with someone else in the room. And it's not just negative energy that we pick up positive energy too. But how often do you freak out with joy the same way you freak out with stress? Right? There is an imbalance. And again, a meme, right? You get that. You get that we need to really pay attention to this because not only are you impacting your body and your immune function and your emotional intelligence and your emotional quotient, but you're impacting mine. So please take time to slow down because we do influence each other. Here's an interesting look at a social network map. And this is showing that well-being and happiness is just as contagious as stress. And you could see here that people who are happy are connected to other people who are happy. The same is true with stress. People who are stressed or depressed are connected to other people who are stressed and depressed. So there is something, we are social creatures. We're like bees or like cows. We're hive creatures, they say, or herd creatures, that we impact each other, we impact the people around us. And so really one of the call to actions here, and I'm so glad you came, is that you can be a social emotional leader in your life, at work, on your team, at home, with your family, simply by being different yourself. And I'm going to give you some strategies for that. But really, it's like putting your own oxygen mask on first. And once you do that, you can really be useful and beneficial to the people that are around you. So this is a 4-step process of recognizing that you're activated, recognizing that there's something up for you that's not feeling right in your body, that you're stressed, that there's anxiety or worry, and just pausing for a second to release it, taking a breath. And in that breath, and guess what? There are 20,000 times a day that we take breath cycles. There are 20,000 moments where you can choose this process to pause, breathe, reflect, and then choose. What are you choosing? You're choosing how you feel. You're choosing what you think, which impacts how you feel, which impacts what you do, how you behave. And that's that whole personal prophecy thing. That when you believe something, when you think something, and that you can get better and better at catching your thoughts with slowing down like this, so that you choose more wisely, you choose more powerfully. So that's, in a nutshell, understanding stress. I'm going to go over some of these others, developing a metacognition, and you'll see how it all fits together. There's a Buddhist concept that talks about the second arrow. And it is essentially when you get hurt, or when you are hurt, or when something is wrong, the first arrow is the pain. The second arrow, they say, is the suffering. So while you may not be as quick to your default mechanism, you might shoot out that first arrow and say something that's not nice, or even think something that's not nice. We usually, we don't talk to ourselves as we would talk to our best friends. We're not so kind to ourselves. We're not very self-compassionate. But the first thought can be quickly followed by a second thought, and that second thought can eliminate some of the suffering that you might face. Because stress, cortisol only stays in your body for 60 seconds. When you get stressed out, you release that neurotransmitter, it stays in your body just for 60 seconds, and then it dissipates. So you may say, Lewis, why then do I feel stressed for longer than 60 seconds? And the answer is what? You keep thinking about whatever it was that caused you that stress. It's called rumination. You play that scenario over and over and over in your head, and you're ruminating about what just happened, or you're doing what my mom does a lot, which is catastrophizing what's about to happen, right? Those are the two stances that many of us take very mindlessly. We're either ruminating something that just happened, or we're catastrophizing something that's about to happen. And let me tell you, we have choices there because we can tell different stories about this, and we can paint different pictures about that. And that's where the whole idea of resilience comes in. So let's practice. This might be your first thought, the first arrow. Damn, already? Right, that's the first thought. The second arrow is the second thought, and the second thought can be something like this. Well, isn't this special? The days are long, but the years are short, right? It's true. Here we are. The days might be long, but the years are short. We must savor it, right? Be in this moment and savor it now. What does that do? It turns stress into surrender. Surrender is a beautiful stance. This is what I picture when I think of surrender. It's just like, I'm not going to change the fact that it's December 7th today and I haven't started my holiday shopping yet. I'm not going to change that. But I could surrender to it. I could be less stressed about it, and I could trust and have faith that I'm going to get it done. And what you can do to practice this is spend more time in an awe situation. So catching the sunset tonight. They've been beautiful lately, haven't they? So just pausing at the sunset and taking a breath with it and just saying, wow, isn't that spectacular? Nature is a beautiful thing. Pause and savor it. And noting well, note bene, NB, is that time isn't very linear, right? So yeah, we go January, February, March, April, May. That seems linear, but I'm just going to throw this at you and let you chew on it as you go forth here. Maybe time isn't as linear as we make it out to be. Maybe. Here's the second practice. That wasn't supposed to come up like that. I hate these crowds, right? I hate these crowds. Ugh. Being in the shopping, I hate these crowds. How about the second arrow, a more positive thought? I'm so grateful to have resources and funds to do some shopping for people I love, right? So from stress, again, obligation, to gratitude. Gratitude is the most beautiful anchor. Right? So if you could find something to be grateful for in the midst of that seemingly stressful situation, it will change how you feel, and it'll change how you behave. And now that you know that there's the mirror neuron connection, it will impact the people around you. The doing here, the practice, is practicing gratitude. And there are so many ways to do that. We were in meetings this morning where some teams do it at their team meetings. What's working well here? What's good, what's right, where can you put your focus on what's already good, something to be grateful for, where are the blessings? At your dinner table you can do that. You know, what went well today? Put your focus on what's good and what's working. I promise you, it has huge, huge effect. In some research studies, it has effect 6 months past that particular dinner where you do it. Sometimes there's a sleeper effect, it's called. It may not be an immediate, but there is the benefit to your body and to your social network. Note well that gratitude is a beautiful anchor, like I said. Let gratitude be your gravity. I love that line. Let gratitude be your gravity. Note, too, that if you're shopping in the mall for people, not everybody loves getting physical gifts. Have you ever thought about that? There's a great tool here called Love Languages. Who's taken it? Good, a good amount of you. And it helps you identify what your love language might be. Physical gifts is just one of them. Time is another one. Service is another one. So there's ways to see, and maybe someone that you care about, you could have that person take it too, because everyone is unique. I always say we're all unique, but not special. So you could also think of using a gratitude letter as a gift. This is an intervention that's been double-blind, clinically tested in research situations where you write a letter to someone acknowledging them for the things that you're grateful for. Very specific and very endearing. It gives a good thought exercise for you. You sit down, you write this beautiful letter, and then the real gift is when you go to them and you read the letter aloud and you create a moment in time that I promise you they probably have never had before. A beautiful moment between two people, and then you leave the letter as the artifact. That's the actual gift that they could have forever. The third, let's see. The first thought, another party. I'm so exhausted, right? Woe is me. I'm getting invited to all these parties, right? But I'm exhausted. You know what? I'm going to ask you. See if you can come up with a more positive reframing of this particular scenario, right? I'm so exhausted. What can you think instead? Just turn to the person next to you. See if you can come up with something. All right. Some suggestions. Yeah, I'm so grateful to have friends and family that want me around. Yeah, not everybody has that, right? I mean, we often do social comparison by looking at people who we think have more than we do, but we don't normally look at people who have less than we do. And yeah, there are some people who are sitting home all month wishing that they had that invitation. Another one. Yes? Yeah, you anticipate something, right? Anticipation is a very useful strategy, a positive anticipation. What can I look forward to? What are you most looking forward to? And sometimes you might have to really squeeze to find something, but I promise you, they say 2 and 3 are the same number if you squint your eyes enough, right? So sometimes you really need to squint in order to see. So my more positive thought here is with every breath I can replete and rejuvenate. What do I need now, or what do I need next? What kind of self-care do I need in this moment? Do I need a bath? Do I need a glass of water? Do I need to lay down for 20 minutes? So ask yourself, what kind of self-care do I need right now? And be open to it at not always needing the same thing. You have to be agile, to be in touch enough with yourself to know, what do I need next? What do I need now? And it's a beautiful question to ask someone that you see struggling. You know, what do you need right now? And how can I support you? The feeling from stress to self-compassion. And the doing, practicing self-care, practicing mindfulness, right? Practicing getting enough sleep, getting enough food, and the right food, nutrition. Sometimes this month we just go off our plan altogether, and we say, oh, in January, then I'll stop drinking, or in January, then I'll give up sugar. But the truth of the matter, you don't have to wait until January. Okay, you can start right now, and especially as you have mindfulness muscle built, you could notice the ever slight changes in your body and in your mood when you're adding a bit more alcohol or adding a bit more sugar. Note that we defined burnout, so to have the way to describe it, and trust that either you have what you need or you know what you need. Essentially, trust your intuition. I have a friend who says, Lewis, your intuition, it's good. It's good. So I'll say that to all of you. Your intuition, it's good. Trust your intuition. The fourth, I'm worried about what's going to happen around here, this place. I'm worried about what's happening in our country. I'm worried about what's happening in the world, okay? What can you reframe this to? Now go with me here, okay? Are you ready? You can think differently about this and wonder, be curious, what are you open to happening, or what do you want to have happen? What's your hope? What's your expectation? Is it positive? So play around with that. What are you curious about? What do you wonder? What are you open to, and what do you want? Hope is such a beautiful stance in the world. And hope is not something you do over your birthday cake when you blow out the candles. Hope is actually something that's grounded in a vision, a strong vision for a better possible future. So instead of catastrophizing like my mom, you can build the best possible scenario in your mind. And I'm not saying that you have to be all there, sunshine and roses, because when you have these two extremes, guess what? You can end up in the middle. You can go to the most likely scenario. And doing this type of visualization exercise, if you Google best possible future self visualization, you'll see some instructions for that. But it's a great exercise and practice. This is a wonderful time of year to do it, right? As we're getting ready to a new year, you could think towards the end of 2018 before we actually get there. Because guess what? We're going to blink and it's going to be December of 2018. So let me ask you, what do you want for 2018? What are you hoping for? What are you wanting? And if you can believe that something wonderful is about to happen next, I encourage you to play around with this. I was with a friend of mine, a mentor friend in Central Park recently, and we were walking around playing this game. Something wonderful is about to happen next. And we had the most fun time. I have to say, we were there for like an hour and a half playing this game and, just talking to each other. But we held that belief that something wonderful is about to happen. And I won't go into the details because you had to be there. But there was a lot of cool things that we experienced that day, and just believing and playing around with this idea that maybe not something bad is going to happen, maybe something wonderful is going to happen next. And the final practice that I have for you here, it's going to be hard. Right? This month is going to be hard. It's going to be draining. It's going to be difficult. Right? How many of you can relate to this kind of immediate thought, the first arrow? So what's the second arrow? What can you choose to think instead? Let's make it fun, right? If it's not fun, it's not worth it. It's one of my favorite adages these days. If it's not fun, it's not worth it. So see if we can make it fun. Gamify it. See if it could be like a game, right? Going to the mall. See, like within the next 45 minutes, I'm going to have, discovered 3 gifts for so-and-so, right? Like, make it a game. Challenge yourself. See if you can make it fun. Even with your family, where can you bring in some more fun? Where can you bring in some more games? I'm telling you, it has a beautiful effect on people's minds and in their hearts. This takes stress to ease and grace. Let it be downstream. Right? Let it be like you're swimming not against the current, but with the current. Let it be easy. And be a Somo leader, meaning drink the good champagne. Don't wait to open the bubbly. Don't save it. Let today be the day that you're going to light that candle and enjoy it. You don't have to wait. What are we waiting for? Use your good silverware. Take it out. Be a joy generator. Be a gracious host when people come to your house. Be that person who is bringing joy, bringing novelty, right? We have a need as human beings for novelty. And at the same time, here's the cognitive dissonance, we have a need for tradition. It's a both and, it's not an either or. When was the last time you introduced something new to your tradition? Novelty is actually something that we all need. That's where I spoke to many people today about moving to this building. Someone I spoke to who's been with the company for 30 years was gushing and saying what a great shift that was for him. It's novel, it's new, right? We all need novelty. It actually is so good for our well-being. And remember that celebration is our highest vibration. So this is a month for celebration. So if you're not celebrating, then you're doing something wrong. I hate to say that. But see where you can be celebratory. right? And you don't have to wait until the 31st of December to celebrate. You could celebrate small things. You could celebrate big things. You could celebrate a new day. I love Maya Angelou said, today's a new day. It's going to be great. I never experienced this one before, right? Think about that kind of thought. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great month. So first arrow, second arrow, see if you can be mindful about noticing where the first arrow comes and then trying something different. Here are some other strategies. If you feel inundated with things to do, make sure that your list is really detailed, meaning make sure that you've broken down what you need to do into every step possible. If you need to organize a dinner, you need to make the list that says, go to the grocery store, pick up XYZ, go to the liquor store, make sure you get this and this and this, go here, do that, and make sure that it's as detailed as possible, because it's been shown in research that procrastination and stress happens when people are not exactly sure what they need to do next. So make sure you know. Keep it simple. I was reading a research article the other day that was talking about the receiver's paradox, meaning they were saying, don't put something extra on the gift that you bought somebody. Make the gift be enough. Keep it simple. When someone receives a gift with something extra on it, they evaluate the value together, and it ends up being less of a value for that person when they mesh the two things together. So just one nice thing for somebody is enough. You don't need to go overboard. Practice makes better, and this is where, mindfulness is a series of practices. So even when you're washing your dishes tonight, have a moment with the dish, right? Instead of thinking about what you need to do after you leave the kitchen or what you should have done before you got to the kitchen, just be in that moment. Feel the suds of water on your skin. Feel the warmth of the water, and just focus your attention for a hot second. I promise you, all of those aggregate of 1% gains, they add up. Exercise. This has been shown to be the best mediator of people who have stress but don't get impacted by the full magnitude of that stress. So get moving, physical exercise, physical movement, even take walking meetings around here where you can, right? We are sedentary, and they say sitting is the new smoking. So we're sitting way too much. We are designed to be moving much more than we are. So get moving, go for walks, start a walking club, make sure. My intention is to sweat every day. That's how I think about my exercise, right? And there's many ways to do that. You do you, and this whole idea of avoiding comparison, remember I was saying before, we tend to do a lot of social comparison, but often this way and very rarely this way. So you take care of you, and just trust that you're doing the best you can with what you have. And when you believe that for yourself, I promise you that that judgment can get transferred then to other people, that everyone else around you is trying the best that they can with what they have. Speaking of mindfulness, I want to put this up here just so you know, anything that's done mindfully has these three components. We toss this word around a lot, so what does it actually mean? When you are doing something mindfully, you have a really strong intention. You know where your attention is, and you're clear about what your attitude is. For example, if you want to come into this meeting today mindfully, you would say something like, I intend to learn something today. I will turn off my phone and any other distraction, and my attitude is open and curious. When you go to a holiday event, you could be pulling in someone's driveway, and you could be thinking, what's my intention for this time today? What do I want to get out of it? What's my hope? What's my expectation? Is it positive? You could say, my intention is to connect with my friends and have fun. My attention is going to be here and now with my friends. Again, what am I going to put aside? And my attitude is going to be playful. Right? Every time you get ready to start something new, pull this out of your pocket. So when you get home tonight and you're sitting in your car and you turn off your car, before you run into that next part of your day, just pause for a second, take a breath, connect with yourself, and say, how am I going to do this mindfully? What's my intention? My intention is to get my house in order tonight. My attention is going to be on my family tonight, and my attitude is going to be fun, or my attitude is going to be warm, right? So every time you get ready, it's called segment intending. Every time you start a new segment of your day, and this is how you could have a mindful transition, right? You're pulling in here in the morning. You could think globally. What's my intention for the day? You could be going to your first meeting. You could think locally. What's my intention for this meeting? You could even be a great social emotional leader in that meeting and say, guys, before we get started, what's our intention? Like, what do we want to get out of this time together today? Be very mindful. And when you practice, when you stand at your sink tonight and practice, or when you sit for a few minutes tomorrow morning with your cup of coffee and you just, focus your attention on the warmth of that coffee and the cup, you could do it for 2 minutes, you could do it for 5 minutes, you build your muscle up over time. But I promise you, again, it all adds up. It all adds up. So essentially, where you could be mindful in other places, like I said, segment intending, take a deep breath. In a stressor, in an activating event, as we practiced, the first arrow goes off. You could say, okay, I'm going to pause right now and be mindful. What am I thinking? What am I believing? What am I feeling? And do I want it to be different? And often when you're feeling something you don't want to be feeling, you're thinking something that's maybe not so accurate. Turning off your devices. I promise you, get them out of your room. Do not sleep with it in your room. Put some blackout shades in there. Get that room dark. You want good rest. You want to put those things aside as much as you can. I promise you they will be there when you return. Nothing is going to go wacky completely without your attention on it for 20 minutes, okay? So if you could do 20 minutes a day, great. If you could do 40 minutes a day, wonderful. If you could go up to an hour a day, turn it off. Turn it off and encourage the other people around you to do the same. How about saying grace? Return to what, our great-grandparents were doing pretty regularly, right? That's a great moment of mindfulness to just say, how can we acknowledge where this food came from? Who can we thank for its getting to our table? The farmers, the grocery store people who stocked it on the shelves. And just, it doesn't have to be long. And let me tell you, because this is my reality, is I often start eating and then I remember to do it. And that's okay too. It's okay. You can give yourself the permission to be human that way and just pause wherever you can. And in the shower, it's another place that I am mindful. I tend to, as the shower comes on, I start with, I'm so grateful for this water. And then I do a ping pong in my head throughout the whole shower to stay focused and mindful of gratitude. I'm grateful for the shower. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for American Greetings today. I'm grateful for the people of Cleveland. I'm grateful for the airplane that got me here. And I just let myself do a stream of consciousness. But I time it. The shower goes on and it's time for it. The shower goes off and I'm done. Does my mind get distracted? You bet, because that's how it works. And you recognize the distraction, self-awareness, and then you just bring it back. They say that bringing your wandering attention back over and over again is the root of all judgment and will. So I'm just putting this up here because I think it's fun, that everything is always changing. So they say that that's what mindfulness helps us attend to, is the ever slight changes in things. So I love this definition of flux, the natural state. Our moods change, our lives change, our feelings for each other change, our bearings change, the song changes, the air changes, the temperature of the shower changes. We must accept this. Everything always changes. Everyone always changes. So even as you're up against people who you're expecting to be a certain way this year when you see them at the holiday, see if you could be open to them showing up differently this year. Because guess what? Everything always changes and everyone always changes. You always change too. We have 10 minutes to just kind of take a breath together. You know, if you exhale longer than you want to, you actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So exhalation is where that gets activated. Most people are breathing not deep enough, right? We're shallow breathers, which is why this happens to our heart rate. So if you focus on the exhalation, you release cortisol with that, and automatically you're less stressed. What kind of questions do you have? Or comments? Yeah.
So I think you were talking about the mindfulness. How does this downplay that it takes to get one of those on the same is that healthy or is that bad habit?
It depends, right? Everything always depends. And that's what my mindfulness teacher says, that everything always depends. So it's not ever one or the other. I think, is it helping or is it hindering? Is it, so in every moment, we were talking at lunch, in Oprah's last ABC show years ago, I'll never forget that one of the last things she says is, in every moment, we're either contributing or we're contaminating, right? So if you see that notification and it's bringing up something in you that's not good, then it's not good. It's contaminating, and you're contaminating the environment around you. So have the wherewithal and the mindfulness to know when to turn it off. In fact, I really encourage you, no notification pop-ups on your phone. If you get a bing every time you get someone posts something on Facebook, get rid of that. Turn that off. You don't need it, first of all, and it's distracting you, even if you think it's not distracting you. You've seen the research that says that even when the phone is on the table at the dinner, it's distracting, or on the table in the meeting, it's distracting people from being present. So you want that out of sight, and you don't want any Bing notifications to take your attention away, because then you're not being mindful. Who else? Yeah.
I don't know quite how to ask this question, but there seems to be a balance between being positive and changing your behavior and thoughts and being real. And your one question about what are really these actions about, I guess the real part of this, how do you balance that? Is there a balance? Or are you saying that just keep practicing the kind of positive thought?
I mean, what's real for me is different than what's real for you, right? So to me, being positive is the real way that I choose to be in the world. That doesn't mean I'm always positive, because I'm not. You know, I do find myself getting cut off and I don't want to show you what it looks like sometimes, right? But I'm aware of it faster than I used to be, and then I can pivot. It's more about authenticity than anything else, right? And you can cut that. When someone's not being authentic, you could often cut it with a knife. What about when you're not being authentic? Right? So choose authenticity over positivity or negativity, but know that our inclination as human beings, we have old wiring in a new world, essentially, and we have to work especially hard to switch that default from negativity bias to more positive way of being. And when you trust that everyone's trying the best they can, you end up giving people more leeway to be human. What else? Yeah?
How do you feel that mental illness plays into this? Because we have record numbers of people with depression and anxiety disorders.
Yeah, so you can have mental health challenges, and I do, and still flourish at the same time. So they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, they are different measurements too. So you could be challenged with some depression sometimes, and actually stress is the #1 predictor of depression. So, and I go through that, and I have since I'm 14 years of age, and in fact, that's the average onset of depression. And they say that once you have your first onset of something like that, you're likely to have recurring throughout your life. So your greatest scars can be the source of your greatest strength. And so you would never want to say to be all positive all the time, because if you were all positive all the time, you would never know what that felt like anymore, because you had nothing to compare it to. Does that make sense? You need the contrast. So you need to have some struggles in order to know what it feels like to have the strength. So it's all good. let yourself enjoy it all, right? And see if you could have a bit more downstream with all of it, a little less resistance. And know that, if your body gets sick, it's telling you it needs to rest. It's a good sign, right? Not, oh shit, now I'm getting sick again, this sucks, I have all these. No, your body is giving you a sign that it needs some rest and some rejuvenation. And you could say to yourself, thank you, body. Thank you for this indication. I appreciate you. And now I'm going to take especially good care of you so that I can regain the strength to do everything else that needs to be done. It will get done, right? Yeah. My Nana always used to say, you gotta wanna, right? And I really believe that. You can change yourself, and when you change yourself, you change your world. You can't change other people. You can influence them, but they have to want to. And I think, a stance that I try to have a lot is not needing to be everyone's problem solver, right? So if someone comes to you skedaddled for whatever reason, just hold space for them to be skedaddled without needing to offer, here, did you try this, or here, do this, or here, I learned this. Just, hold space and say, yeah, it must really suck to be skedaddled right now. And have a bit of empathy. Like a little bit of empathy goes a long way for someone to say, I know what that feels like, and it sucks. Just kind of acknowledging, normalizing that it's okay to be there. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, well, I'll stick around for a little bit. Thank you guys so much for coming. Happy holiday. Be well. Be happy. Be in touch. If you I put the popcorn there because, this is applied in real life. So as you go forth and you experience something and you want some feedback, send it my way, please. Good to see you again. Be well.